to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Barjo, and this week we save the galaxy.
As well as Mass Effect 3, we'll also take a look at Twisted Metal, exploding vehicular combat mayhem.
And Goose takes a look at the evolution of the save file.
For gamers today, things are much better.
But first, can you guess the game for this week?
Easy. News time.
Good game.
Reports are suggesting that the next generation of Xbox will not include a physical disk drive. Unnamed sources have told gaming publication MCV that Microsoft has been informing their partners of the decision under strict non-disclosure agreements. Instead of traditional disks, the console will apparently use a form of solid-state memory cards. 5 members from the notorious hacking group LulzSec have been arrested in an international sting led by the FBI. The group rose to infamy during a hacking spree last year, which targeted gaming companies such as Sony, BioWare and Nintendo, and government organisations such as the CIA, FBI and US Senate. An FBI investigation into the group led to the arrest of their supposed leader, Hector Xavier Monsegur, also known as Zabu. Monsegur pleaded guilty to 12 counts of hacking-related charges and then turned informant. As a result of his cooperation, 5 high-level LulzSec members were then arrested, including 2 men from London, 2 from Ireland, and another from Chicago. Veteran game designer Peter Molyneux is leaving Lionhead Studios and resigning as the creative head of Microsoft Studios Europe.
The age of heroes is over.
Molyneux will be leaving Lionhead once work on the upcoming game Fable The Journey is complete, and will move on to an unannounced independent venture. Lionhead co-founder Mark Webley will take over as the new studio head.
Good game.
Looks like Calypso's got himself another driver for this year's contest.
The Twisted Metal franchise is a veteran when it comes to car combat. The latest in the series is the 8th installment, and it has legendary creator David Jaffe behind the wheel, and it's called Twisted Metal. Once again, a bunch of no-good, downright evil characters will enter a to-the-death car combat tournament run by the sinister Calypso. The prize to have one wish granted of their choosing.
Take me to her now!
Your wish is granted.
Unlike previous games, the single-player campaign focuses on the stories of 3 main characters, Sweet Tooth, Mr. Grimm and Dollface, which are told through some pretty gruesome live-action cutscenes.
She was a fighter.
Each character has access to all the vehicles in the game and carries with them a gang of nasties to help out. You'll drive and blast your way through a series of increasingly difficult maps, some with hard-to-find health or tricky pitfalls, and challenges like a constantly relocating cage you must try and stay within the boundaries of or you'll start taking damage.
You are outside the cage. Grace period initiated.
Your first barrier in this game are the controls, which take ages to get used to. It just feels so unnatural with square to go forwards and double tap circle for reverse. Double tap circle, I had to look that up online. Just how to reverse in this game.
You looked it up online?
Yeah.
Why don't you just do the tutorial?
I haven't got time for tutorials, Hex. Get into the action.
It took me a little while to get used to it as well, plus double tap square plus tip the controller forward using the 6-axis to get a boost followed by a dash boost. It's all a bit weird.
They have made use of every button on this controller though to handle all of your weapons, mines and shields.
Well, I definitely recommend jumping into the training mode first, just to get a handle of the controls. It'll save you a lot of floundering around in the first couple of maps or internet searches, because a lot of the controls just won't come naturally to you. Each car has its own regenerating special weapon that has a cooldown, but to activate it you have to cycle through your weapons with R1, then hit triangle, then R2 to fire.
Yeah, I cancelled it all the time by accident, but they do look great, don't they? Sweet Tooth's ice cream van transforms into a kind of Autobot that flies. There's a hearse that shoots coffins, an ambulance that turns a hospital bed into a controllable missile, and a vast array of guns and rockets to be fired from all angles.
The cars actually handle really well, I thought, although I was a little bit rubbish in that helicopter. I'm not usually the best driver in games, but Twisted Metal is one of the few games I feel really at home in a vehicle. It's ridiculously fun. Smashing through buildings and walls, being driven over by tanks, driving off the most ridiculous heights, you seem virtually indestructible. When your health does get low though, you can pick up health packs or get air off the back of a health semi-trailer for a full recharge.
Vehicle health restored.
Most of the single-player maps let you choose between 3 or so vehicles to have at your disposal. So if one gets particularly beaten up, you can get yourself to a garage to repair it or swap it out with one of the others. The vehicle selection I thought was excellent. There's about 15 or so cars to choose from, and you can even customize their paint jobs if you want to be creative. Challenges range from races that require you to arm and set off bombs attached to enemy vehicles, or taking out juggernaut semi-trailers that spawn enemies. Choosing the right vehicle for the right challenge is often the key to victory.
You have won the battle.
But mostly you'll be fighting it out in an arena, hoping to be the last one standing.
I don't really enjoy these campaign challenges much, Badge. I mean, I thought they were reasonably creative, but they're often just a real slog to get through, not to mention some pretty tedious boss battles. And you have to play through it if you have any hope of unlocking some decent vehicles for multiplayer.
Yeah, I found the campaign tough going. I just didn't really enjoy engaging with this AI, and to be honest, after the first death, I kind of wanted to stop.
Yeah, and also, while I have no real issue with live-action cutscenes, I thought the attempt at story here was pretty weak, with some crappy writing as well.
The hospital just wasn't really working for her.
I want to say it serves a purpose, but for me, it doesn't really, because once I'm in there and driving around, I'm just a faceless vehicle anyway. I don't really care who's driving it or what their apparent motivations are.
I thought the cutscenes bookended the chapters nicely, and I think fans of the series will get a kick out of learning the backstories behind iconic characters like Sweet Tooth.
It reminded me of how I hated him. How I hated being him. His stupid little life. That stupid little job.
But at the end of the day, I probably could have done without them. This is really about the multiplayer, and that's where I had the most fun.
Yes, you can play locally via LAN, split screen, and of course online with up to 16 players. There are some maps where you'll really just need to be on top of your health because the game is fast-paced and brutal. When you get caught in a manic scrap with a bunch of cars, things can get pretty dire very fast.
You can unlock primary weapons such as mounted guns or a magnum. But the real damage comes from missiles, rockets, and grenades that you pick up around the map. Using these in conjunction with shields and freeze weapons will allow you to pound a decent amount of damage into enemy vehicles as you recklessly tear around the map. I especially loved shotgunning a car, Hex. Shotgunning a car!
I'd burn through my entire arsenal really quickly trying to throw everything I had at one guy for a quick takedown and then get caught up racing around trying to replenish my ammo or get to a garage for repairs, and that's when I'd be targeted and that's when I'd be the most vulnerable. But I love those little touches, like after you take a guy down, if you manage to run over his flaming escaping driver, then you get an extra health bonus. It's a great incentive to be a jerk, if you need any more incentive in this game, which you don't.
I like preying on the weak. I liked the range of maps and locations, Hex. Some were seriously frustrating though, with rotating ramps and lava pits. So much is destructible, and there's such a joy to be had from just burning through terrain as you skid around and turn on a dime, guns are blazing.
Yeah, I think my favourite moments when we were just landing and playing one-on-one, ripping around the city in pursuit of each other. There's a real sense of freedom, and pitting wacky combinations of vehicles against each other just made for some hilarious battles.
So what are you giving it, Hex?
Look, I really didn't enjoy the single-player campaign. It's just not my idea of a good time, but I had some seriously gleeful moments in multiplayer, which I agree is what Twisted Metal is all about. I think fans of the franchise will get exactly what they're looking for out of this. I'm giving it 7 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I loved the original. I played so much of it as a kid, and all these wacky characters, like the guy with the wheels.
Axel.
Yeah.
I remember that because that's my dad's name. I'm not kidding.
He's a weird character, and they brought back so many memories for me, but I think that's part of the problem. It's almost too nostalgic and not evolved enough. I still had a good time though. I'm giving it 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Good game.
Gaming hero. My gaming hero. Well, I mean, I'd have to say Richard Garriott because I grew up on the Ultimas.
I, Lord British, welcome you to the worlds of Ultima.
I was introduced by a family friend of mine to Ultima 3, and then I'm like, oh, I gotta play Ultima 1, 2, 4, and on, and then Ultima Online Beta, and then that, of course, was, hey, MMOs, and then MMOs since. So it'd have to be Richard Garriott.
Good game.
Hex, back in my day, if you wanted to save your theme park, you had to write down a 25-letter password. But of course, nowadays things are much different.
It's easy to forget that not so very long ago, game save files didn't exist. Starting and finishing a game would have to be done in one sitting. Sure, games were shorter and with little to no story, but that didn't help when you were halfway through and summons to the dinner table. Your only choice was to leave it running and pray to the gaming gods that no one would come along and switch off your machine. For gamers today, thankfully, things are much better. Many games will autosave or remember your last checkpoint. Others let you save anywhere, while some even place save points into the game world itself. Who could forget Resident Evil's typewriters, falling asleep in Grand Theft Auto, going to the loo in No More Heroes? And now Mass Effect 3 is set to bring back some of your old friends and finish off storylines, but it all depends on the decisions you made in the first two games. These old save files sitting in your machine will be carried over, so your Mass Effect 3 experience is going to be different to your mates. It's intelligent game making, especially as the series was always planned as a trilogy, but BioWare are not the first developers to reward fan loyalty with bonus content. In 1998, Metal Gear Solid was revolutionary in more ways than one. The tactical adventure game freaked players out when Psycho Mantis, the resident bad guy, could seemingly read minds. Psycho would refer to games that appeared on your memory card or ridicule you for saving too often.
You have not saved often. You are somewhat reckless.
In racing games, you usually get cars or money straight off the bat. Need for Speed Most Wanted gave you an extra $10,000 if you had a Need for Speed Underground 2 save file on your console. Burnout Revenge Racers would score the ridiculously awesome Dominator Assassin with a Burnout 3 save file. And in Gran Turismo 4, a GT3 save file was worth a sweet 100,000 credit bonus. In Dead Space 2, the only way to unlock a souped-up plasma cutter was to have a save file from the first game. You also upped your arsenal in Battlefield Bad Company 2. A previous save file got you the M1 Garand, Thompson SMG, or M1911. It's like winning the Lucky Door prize just for turning up. Infamous 2 remembered how good or evil you chose to be in the first game. Perhaps it drew inspiration from Little Big Planet 2, where unlocked content was carried over from the original. Or Uncharted 2, which gave you a cool $100,000 for unlocking the Platinum Trophy and having an Uncharted save file.
Did go through the rest of your money, and a good chunk of my own, but hey.
In Gears of War 2, you get 3 multiplayer characters just for having 3 achievements from the first game. Some games chose a more subtle approach. In Shadow of the Colossus, the horse Aggro would have a mark-shaped eye on his head if you had an Ico save file. Nice. Nintendo's mastermind, Shigeru Miyamoto, has rewarded fans of his games with some save file bonuses, and they haven't even involved sequels. A Pikmin save file was all you needed to unlock the Captain Olimar trophy in Super Smash Bros. Melee. At the time of Melee's release, Captain Olimar was a brand new character in the Nintendo universe. 2011's Spider-Man Edge of Time had a closet full of bonuses for fans. To get 10 costumes straight away, all you needed was a Shattered Dimensions save file on your hard drive. Not to be outdone, Sega coded a nice surprise for Marvel comic fans in 2008. An Iron Man save file resulted in a specially armoured playable Iron Man character in The Incredible Hulk. And these are just the tip of the iceberg. Where they once just extended games, save files can now affect how games are played. What developers do next is anyone's guess. Kooky rewards are a given, but it's the big stuff like Mass Effect's different outcomes that'll keep us on our toes. So as Commander Shepards everywhere get busy, there's every chance a game designer somewhere will have already dreamt up the next big thing. Is it too crazy to think a character you've met in one series could reappear in another? In the meantime, make sure you guard those save files because you never know when you might need them again.
Good game!
Mass Effect 3 is quite simply one of the most spectacular games ever made. Observe.
Step back into this universe again, it starts to get torn apart by an explosive attack on Earth. The Reapers are here to kill everything, and it really is a war of the worlds, and our worlds are losing. On top of that, the controversial pro-human group Cerberus and their imaginatively titled leader, the Elusive Man, are constantly messing up your plans.
Shepard witnesses the deaths of many people on Earth, including the only child in the galaxy. This haunts his dreams, and it's the first sign that this journey for Shepard is going to be a dark one. Not everyone is going to make it out alive, and all bets are off, and that breeds for some rich storytelling.
Before we go any further though, Barjo, what is going on with your Shepard? I mean, look at him.
What's wrong with him? I was aiming for Scary Magician.
Despite all this, it's good seeing you again.
Oh, it's a combination of those lips and that pencil-thin mustache. Then he's got no chin. It just kind of has this weird bar of square flesh underneath his... Oh, I had nightmares.
Humanity has questions.
Because we played the previous games on developer consoles, we weren't able to import our save files into this one, so we started afresh. And heck, I've been on a bit of a journey with this Mass Effect because I've never really liked male Shep. I found his voice acting to be an average at best, and maybe it's just personal, but to take revenge, I wanted to make him look as ugly as possible.
How many civilians are dying while they wait for us to make the first move?
Yeah, well, mission accomplished.
While I've enjoyed each game, I've always struggled a little bit to connect with Shepard and the storylines, and I think part of it has just been because of male Shep, because 10 hours in I switched to femme Shep and I just started having a massively better time.
I'm Commander Shepard with the Alliance. I'm here to help.
It's such a different vibe with her. With him, I felt like he was just a boring guy ripped from Gears of War, but with her, I feel like she's a hardened space wizard soldier, you know, with the burden of the universe on her shoulders, and it just feels so much better.
Well, I think you're being a little bit harsh on male Shep. Yeah, he's not that bad, but I agree, femme Shep is loads better, or in my case, goth Shep. I mean, she just sounds more intelligent somehow, and you believe her more.
I'm just a soldier, Anderson. I'm no politician.
Although she's quite serious. All of the mouth options are downturned and frowny, and I would have appreciated a few extra hair options. I'm glad I could rock that black lipstick again, though.
Mass Effect 3 is a masterpiece of virtual construction, both visually and conceptually. It's stunning to put your eyes on at every turn, and that ebbing alien soundtrack is just as incredible as the last games. The use of flaring lights and colour and darkness is fine work, and it made me feel like each frame had real thought behind it.
Everything is in such high detail as well in both gameplay and cutscenes on either platform. We tested this on PC and 360, and you won't find any ugly vertical tearing or texture popping. It's consistently stunning whether you're bumping around on the dusty red planet of Mars or exploring some foreign space station or world. This game just has such scale, and to top it all off, they've improved the loading, so choosing whether or not to play this on PC or console really comes down to where your old save file is, or if you want to play with a mouse and keyboard or a controller.
Yeah, it's baffling the PC version doesn't have any controller support, no integrated support, so you can probably edit an INI file later, but in this day and age, not good enough. But action feels much tighter this time around on every platform. Previous games always had a bit of that RPG dice roll vibe to the health bars, but now the kick of weapons and the impact sounds feel strong enough to rival any third-person shooter out there. How good do all the weapons look?
Ah, space guns, Barjo. And there's plenty for you to mod and play around with to suit your playstyle too.
I love a good space shotgun hex. But this game really does lend itself towards ranged focus classes, because you die so quick when your shields are gone. I still had such a good time playing with remote drones and shield attacks and crowd control. That combat is just so exhilarating. You still need to manually order your squad mates to focus fire if you want to take down enemies efficiently.
Roger that.
But Hex, I still felt like they didn't listen to me sometimes, and I think that might just come down to their own self-preservation within each fight.
I think they got the balance just right in terms of how much they get involved. They're not perfect though, and they still do stupid things sometimes, but the action is so frantic I hardly had time to notice them anyway. One of the biggest achievements and improvements is the way you're pulled through the levels and the enemy AI that aggressively engages you. Transitions from action to cutscenes are unmatched. It's just so fluid, and that camera swing to let you know it's go time is just wonderful.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, those transitions are super impressive, but they've really evolved the cutscenes too. It's no longer that standard BioWare character moves backwards, turns around, touches his face while he's talking, then comes back, although they do that a little bit. All the camera work and cinematography, it just looks like a great sci-fi film.
Oh, I saw those big space battle cutscenes. I mean, they went all out on the cutscenes this time. And the levels are so interesting, and there's so many of them.
Go, Commander! I'll cover you from here!
I mean, I remember how restrictive Mass Effect 1 felt, and this feels so much more open in comparison. It's come a long way. You'll often be faced with environmental challenges that might disrupt your shield or boost the enemies, or they might simply just have the higher ground or flank you like crazy. There's such immediacy to the action sections. You know, it's go, 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 and I love the way the situation just changes on the fly, and usually for the worse. Overall, I just felt like it was less static, and those precursor cutscenes really give you a better sense of the universe.
What's the word? Do we know how long these scientists have been holed up out here?
Ma'am, I'm picking up chatter from a Cerberus squad engaging the supply depot.
Yeah, and they've streamlined some of the more tedious bits too, like visiting the Citadel, although it does take a while to get around there, and Shepard bounces around just pressing A on a bunch of people and generally sticking her nose into everyone's business.
I've seen Palaven burning. Those fires aren't going out anytime soon.
I love how the loading screens are actually relevant now. I mean, it may sound like a small thing, but it just helps the pace of the game from the mission briefing to the landing. Some side quests are still simply clear out the goons, but even these are polished, and there's so many other missions that will blow you away. Enemies will surprise you as you fight, and combinations of enemy types will change your strategy.
Maybe we can fight these guys! Watch for it!
There's such variety in these enemies now, and they do that thing from Mass Effect 1 where they throw in one really tough guy, such as a shielded enemy or a mech, or the Banshees, who are terrifying. There's only one thing scarier than those Banshees. So much thrilling strategy in these fights, but you absolutely won't get a taste of it if you play on normal difficulty. You need to put it up. We found this pretty easy on normal, and you can change it at any time.
You can also play this on narrative difficulty, which is pretty much just God mode, but you'll blast through the game in like a quarter of the time, and there really isn't any strategy to it. Mass Effect isn't just a story about Shepard, it's about who you roll with.
You get a new scar every time I see you. Losing a step there in your old age?
Raise your hand if you haven't been killed before.
Touché.
While I loved the story in Mass Effect 1, the characters in Mass Effect 2 just didn't really resonate with me, and I know you weren't such a fan of them either. Did FemShep change things for you this time around?
I hoped you might give me some pointers.
That's funny. I figured you'd be more interested in a shower.
To a point, Hex. I still think there are some weak performances and moments here, but Mass Effect takes itself so seriously. That can be a good thing, and this does delve more into that personal journey of Shepard and how the weight of the universe is on his or her shoulders, and I like that, but they could just lighten up a bit.
Well, the galaxy is ending, Barjo. I mean, it's serious business. This is such a complex system of storytelling, too, with so many characters.
Still crack a joke.
Stopping the Reapers is the only thing we should be focused on. It's not your fault.
But what if we're wrong? What if there's no way to stop them? What if these are our last days and we spend them scurrying around trying to solve a problem we can't fix?
I just found that dialogue dragged a little bit, and if it was more snappy, perhaps I wouldn't zone out. And zoning out is a big problem in this game, because if you miss something, then you might get to a major decision point and have no idea what it's about. And that happened to me once or twice.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but one member of the Good Game team was actually able to port his save file over, and he said that he loved every single word of this game and had never been so invested in a game before. And I think because you and I weren't able to, you know, continue our save files over, we weren't able to see those early decisions play out, and that affected things a little bit.
Yeah, it does show the importance of that spanning story, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's a shame for those who may have lost their save file or couldn't port it across for whatever reason, that there weren't more setup options to try and recreate that backstory.
Yeah, but even without the weight of those original decisions, I still found this game tugged at my heartstrings a few times, and I eventually started getting more involved in this story and more attached to these characters.
It's too late for me. There are hundreds coming. Just go!
Move!
No! Rila! I love you.
But you know, it's rare for any game to evoke an emotion, so it's quite an achievement. And every time I started getting a bit bored with all the political chit-chat, of which there is quite a lot, something like this would happen. And I would just revel in the scope of this game. And now there's a multiplayer wave mode as well. Hex, I'm not normally into these because I never feel like I'm achieving anything, but this one is quite addictive and it's really polished. Every time I felt like I wanted to get away, it would unlock a new character, or I'd get enough credits to buy a new pack to get some new gear, and I think they did a good job with it.
Now we should quickly talk about the voice commands. Now you can talk to these characters if you have a 360 and a Kinect. You can order move locations, switch weapons, activate particular abilities, and respond in dialogue with your voice.
What'd you have in mind?
Something that doesn't involve fighting Reapers.
I don't think they've conquered the bar yet.
But how did you find it, Barjo?
I found in the combat, yelling out abilities was really fun and made the combat so fluid, but the hit rate was about 50-50 at the volume I like to game at, which is far too low for it to be practical, and I don't think it once heard me say incinerate correctly.
I found I use it mostly in the cutscenes. It's really nice being able to put the controller down and settle in for a long conversation and just lean back and speak your dialogue options. I thought that was really cool.
There were 137 regulations telling me I couldn't.
So you got them changed?
No. Now I just don't give a damn.
Yeah, I like that too, but then at one point I was in this really pivotal moment, which was a major decision in the game. So I instinctively went, oh, what do I do? And then it chose for me, and whether it was me or picking up some background noise from the TV, I don't know, but I was cut about that because I couldn't go back.
You know, Badge, this is such a huge and complete universe, and such a complete game as well, and while I do think our criticisms are valid, I don't know about you, but all that just seemed to melt away as you get so lost and just immersed in this experience.
Yeah, the more I played with this game, the more I enjoyed it, and the more I started to realize that the things I didn't like didn't even matter. This is a remarkable achievement to span a complex story like this over 3 games, and it's just better in every single way to the previous 2. And you know, it's so hard to articulate just how exceptional Mass Effect 3 is without showing and talking about all the major story events in the game and how they play out, but you'd hate us for that because it'd be mad spoilers. But trust us, this is champagne game design and how it looks, how it plays, and how it involves you in the story. So I'm giving it 10 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Yeah, it does start out as a bit of a slow burn, doesn't it? But once the action ramps up and all of the threads of your story decisions start to come together, it just blows you away, and there's no turning back, and there's certainly no putting it down. I'm giving it 10 out of 10 as well.
Double 10s, you know what that means, Hex?
Double 10 balloons!
Not this time. May I present to you the Good Game Team Double 10 Dancers.
Okay, let's never do that again.
No. We spoke to Robin the Berg from BioWare, and you can see that full developer interview on the website.
There are a few people in the galaxy who've seen me in action, Garrus. They seemed impressed.
Yeah, but I've actually seen you dance, Shepard. No comment.
Good game!
So did you guess the game for this week?
It was, obviously, the original Donkey Kong released back in 1981 as an arcade machine. It was Shigeru Miyamoto's first outing as a game designer. As well as Donkey Kong, it also featured Jumpman, who of course evolved into the iconic Mario we all know and love.
And Donkey Kong is featured heavily in the documentary King of Kong, which is all about the bitter rivalry between longtime champ Billy Mitchell and newcomer and all-round Mr. Nice Guy Steve Wiebe.
Besides myself, that have been seen getting to the end of Donkey Kong. Gee, now that I think about it, I don't think anybody has.
And this documentary airs on Sunday at 8:30 p.m. on ABC2 as part of Sunday Best, and it's just excellent.
Next week we shall return in an epic battle of our own with Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City.
Eat this, you freak!
Plus, the year is 2080. Robots are everywhere in Binary Domain.
Let's go!
And over on Spawn Point this weekend, we'll be attempting to snowboard down a variety of virtual real-life mountains. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
In SSX. And once again, thanks for Facebooking, tweeting, and foruming. Till next week, gamers, Hex out.
Barjo out.